it's Teresa here from South East London. Welcome back, and a big welcome to all our new subscribers. I'm sorry I don't know your names, but I don't seem to get a list of the names anymore. Big welcome as well to all our new Facebook people. Well, this is part one, the cover of a Christmas journal. It's a fabric, basically a fabric journal. I've been collecting all these bits since last Christmas, so it's taken quite a while to get it to this far. As you can see, it is a patchwork cover, and some of the pages, not all the pages, but some of the pages will also be stitched with fabric pieces. Now, as Christmas is a season and not just a couple of days, most people say, oh, it's only a day, it's only 2 days. Well, actually it isn't, it is a season. I decided to concentrate on the 12 days of Christmas, starting on the 25th or 26th December and finishing on the 6th or 7th of January. As I was growing up, we always considered 12th night, the 6th of January, the Epiphany, to be the end of Christmas. However, my friend, Lebanese, celebrates Christmas Day on the 6th of January. That is his Christmas. Now, I like the 6th of January because that's my birthday. So I was always considered to be a Christmas baby. So yeah, it's a special day for me anyway. Now, this will have plenty of room to journal, and it will also have 12 small booklets which we're going to make, one for each day of the 12 days of Christmas. However, at this stage, I'm beginning to feel this could be another mega beast, and it might actually turn into the 12 months of the year. Probably 5 signatures, and it is going to be really big. So we're starting with the cover. I'm not doing it as one complete project in one hit, because this is very time consuming and the signatures are going to be time consuming, so I will do it in 2 parts. So I think that is it. I'm reading from my notes here. Part of this as well, but will be reflective. I'm intending this at this stage, and I only have the cover done, to have it as a reflective fabric journal for, as I say, over the Christmas time. But who knows, it might go on into the new year or into the whole year with our 12 little booklets. So this is the front, obviously, and to give it a Christmassy feel, these were an afterthought, these little bits here, because it looked sort of Christmassy, but there was nothing on the front to say 12 days of Christmas. So I've taken this bit here which says 5 gold rings and put the rings there. I will go into greater detail as time moves on. So that is the cover. Now I have a book just holding that up so you could see it. The spine is in tartan, and the back is the same as the front. I'm not actually going to do any more work on here because I think it speaks for itself. It is lined, and this is so big it's going to be hard to show it to you all. So part tartan and part satin. Now at this stage, I know that it's finished. I'm not too keen on this bit. I'm not too keen. It's very shiny, and I think it might be too shiny. So that is likely to change at any time before the signatures go in. But you will be part of that change. But for now on, we're going to concentrate on the patchwork pieces. So grab your rag bag, because this is what you're going to need for this project. Your rag bag and some cards, sewing needle, and we will make a start. And I really hope you enjoy this project, because so far I've loved doing this. So this is one of the most exciting parts of making the journal, and that is actually making your folder to be covered. Now I know my pages are going to be about 8 by 8 not a great deal bigger than that, so my folder needs to be slightly bigger to take that size page. Now I've made my folder, it's actually just 10 3/4 lengthwise by 9.5. Now that will suit my needs, but your folder might possibly be different size. So front and back are the same size, with conveniently a 3.5 spine. Now I've had to trim it obviously for the size I want, and then I've lined it. Now the lining was a bit more difficult because I had to find pieces of card to fit this size, and that is why I have, this is display card here. This bit here was where I had bits of work displayed, so that is display card. That piece there is the other side of the box, so that piece there would have gone here, there. And then this is from another box, and this has just been glued down with a strong glue. Well, actually, I say strong glue, it is a strong glue. It is the stick glue, just ordinary stick glue, and it's held it very well. And then I folded it up like this and left it overnight to dry and to flatten. Now, so that is absolutely fine, no secrets about that. So that is my folder. So the next thing to do is think about covering the cover. Now I've gone back to my rag bag and I've taken out quite large, this is just ribbon, some ribbon that I bought, and all these are just out of the rag bag. Now I want to sew these together and do a background cover in all these what I consider to be blingy, Christmassy type fabrics. So my first step is to join these. Now my strips are going to be 1.5 inches by various lengths. They'll end up being about 1 inch wide because there's going to be a very small seam along each side where they're joined together, and that will reduce the size to about 1 inch. Now I don't want them the full length of the folder, I want to make them shorter, so they'll be probably no longer than maybe 6 inches. That's actually a nice length. What is that? That's 7, so certainly no longer than 7 inches. Probably get 2 strips out of that. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to cut all these into strips. Fortunately, or luckily, some of them are already cut. Well, let me just see how. That is just under 1.5, which will make that just a bit too narrow. Oh, yes, just under. But I might be able to save some of them. So that's my next task now, to cut them into strips. After I've cut them into strips, I'm just going to sew them into one long length. So they're all different, but they've all been sewn into one very, very long strip. So there we are. Now the next step, I cut a piece of calico, and I did this by just placing it, placing my card, my folder, as we now call it, onto a strip of calico, and literally doing it this way. We want, or I want, about 2 inches here. I want 2 inches there for the inside. I want 1 inch, at least 1 inch border at the top and the bottom. I might have to make that just a little bit smaller. No, that's big. To see if I can get this in. So I hope you can see that. The top and bottom, about 1 inch, no less than 1 inch, 1.25, and then bring this the back over, and you need to make sure that it closes, that it isn't too tight around the spine here. Now what I have done, you might be able to see the creases here. I've creased in at 2 inches. I've creased in at the end, either end, and the spine, and those are just my guidelines. I should start just over the edge of one crease, and I should finish at the other crease on the front, what I will call the front. And if I pop that there, you can see what I'm talking about, wouldn't you? So that will be the front. So I will start just over the edge of that crease, and I will finish just over the edge of that crease, and the same strip wise here. I will make them just a little bit longer than the length of the folder. I'm just going to move the folder. Now, how I'm going to do this, I should start here, and I will, as it comes, I'm just going to place one down like this, and I will machine sew just over the crease, as I explained. Machine sew there. This edge will be held in place. I should cut the top. This is awkward when it's something so big. I shall cut the top right here. Imagine that is the top. That has now gone into the seam allowance, the border. I'll cut that there, and then I will place the next part. Let me cut that there. So now we have it machine sewn here along there, and that is now loose, but I'm going to pop this one right side down, edge to edge, right side down, and machine sew along here, down there, and open it out like so, and press it flat, and then cut it here. And I'll do exactly the same. So the next strip will go along here, face to face, right side to right side. So we have right side to right side here, machine sew on the edge, and then bring that open like so, and press it, and I should do that all the way along until I get there, and then I will stop and we'll have another look at it. Okay, so I'm going to make a start with that, see how I get on. And this was such a lovely thing to do. It really was, and I think I'm going to have to use this again in another project. Now, although I did most of it by hand, by sewing machine, I actually did some by hand as well. If I can find the bits, if you can see the sewing here, I did these ones quite a substantial size just in running stitch. Before I knew it, I'd covered quite a big area. So you don't have to do this by sewing machine. But anyway, here we are. This is one, either the front or the back cover. All different, as I said, different lengths, different fabrics, and it's the fabric that gives you the nice texture. Yeah, you can't touch the fabric from where you are, and that's the sound of texture. So that is one of the covers, either the front or the back. The spine, I decided I wouldn't do the spine the same, for the simple reason I'm not too sure at this stage how I'm going to attach the signatures, the chapters, to the spine. Now if I decide to sew them in, I might hit the seams. If I had this fabric here, I might hit the seams and break some of the stitching, which would weaken the cover, which would weaken the whole cover, and it might start undoing these. So I've decided to do it in one piece, hence the tartan there. So that is the spine, and this is the other side. Oh, that looks a bit wonky. and that is the other side, which will be the other, either the front or the back. I want to make that a little bit bigger, so just watch your eyes a little bit. You might get a better idea of the nature of the fabric that I've used. Oh, there we go, there we go. So there's an awful lot of shininess, blinginess going on here. I've tried to play down some of these blatantly gold sparkly fabrics with some more subdued fabrics here and here, up here as well, the dark. So we have on this the contrast between, let's have a look, we have the contrast here between bright, loud and blingy against the more subdued bits of black here. If you can see the black here, it's matte, that's not shiny, so that's a nice contrast going on there. Some of the widths vary as well. There's a big wide, quite a wide band there set against a narrower piece here. That was actually I'm making it sound as if I planned that way, but I didn't at all. That's just what happened. I think in these narrower areas, these narrower strips, I just happened to take a wider seam allowance, that's all. And on here I wasn't so tight on the seam allowance, but there are some contrast going on there. Plain, we have the plain fabrics here, plain here, plain against the pattern, so that's another contrast. Over here the same, plain, and we have once again very, very busy patterns. So there are contrasts going on here, but to me, I think if you can't get away with being a bit OTT, over the top at Christmas, when can you? So to be honest, I'm not too worried. I'm really not too worried that it's bright, busy. That's just how my Christmases are. That's how my Christmas tree looks, actually. Not much style about it. Cluttered, busy, and I love it. So anyway, this is as far as we've got. I'm getting carried away now with the Christmas thing. Oh, I'm so excited, and it's still September. Now do I need to applique and do some stitching. Some slow stitch or some of our embroidery stitches, a little bit of stitchery going on. So I need to just stop this for an hour or so, hang it up where I can see it, and then decide if this surface is finished. And I'm looking at it on the screen and I'm thinking, no, that isn't finished yet. So I think I've maybe answered my own question. Now what I have done on the back here, and I think you can see the pink mark all the way round. This is where the folder actually finishes. That's where the folder finishes, and that is with room for it to close as well. So the folder finishes like that. And obviously the end bits, which you can't see on the screen, will be tucked under, well, they'll actually be attached to the lining. So that is a rough idea of how the folder will look without the stitchery that I've decided in that split second since I posed that question to add a bit more or not. I've answered that myself. Yes, I think it's in need of just a little bit of stitchery. However, as you know, that could change after I have my coffees, put that on the wall and just sit and watch it for an hour. How exciting is that? Actually, I want to go outside and read under the oak tree for a little while, capture some of this sun. But anyway, back to this. So that is how it's going to look, like that. Okay, now I've marked it inside because if I do stitchery, so it must have been on my mind, I won't go over the mark here. Not only that, what I will do as well, I will go around here now and I might just make another line underneath as a stitching line, machine stitching, because I won't actually want to sew on that pink line there. If I were to sew on that line all the way around, sew that to the lining, it's going to be too tight to put the folder in. So I need a little bit of a seam allowance all the way around, but not much. And I think maybe I could just gauge that on the with the pressure foot on the sewing machine. Or for those who think, oh, I might like another line, just add your seam allowance there all the way round, and then you would sew on that line. Okay, that would be very wide actually, so that would need to be about there, about 1/4 of an inch. Actually it should be 1/8 of an inch, shouldn't it? But just to allow. But if I do some stitching there, that is likely to change, because the stitching on the front will tighten this and pull it in, making it just a tiny bit tighter and a tiny bit smaller. So it's all work in progress, and as you know, it grows, it develops as it goes. We don't start off with a single plan, a single idea and stick to it. We're allowed to change our minds as we go along, because it develops. It's almost like a living thing, if you like. It's going to develop, progression of an idea. So on that, I'm now going to pin it on the wall. I've got so many pin marks. My walls are really tatty. I like wallpaper, and I've got pin marks and all sorts of things, bits of sticky bits on my wall. Shocking, really shocking. I need to decorate. But anyway, it's another story. So for now, I'm going to put it on the wall. I'll have my coffee and I shall sit. And I'm actually going to sit and admire it. Now that's set me up for a fall, hasn't it? So, so I shall watch my coffee to make sure I don't spill it. Oh well, I'll throw it at the wall maybe. I had a look at a couple of ideas. First idea was perhaps a doily in the middle like this, but then it's going to take up too much of the background patchwork, which defeats the object really of doing the patchwork. Oh, by the way, I think I have enlarged this so you can get a better look, but I'll just take that back a bit. Yeah, if you can see that, that will take up far too much space, although it's lovely. The same with that, it's the same size. So then I cut something else up. That was from a tablecloth, and I thought, no, that doesn't look good at all. Then there's something here that I'm working on for a page. So I felt with this one I was getting closer to the look that I wanted, although this isn't finished. I was getting closer with this one, so I thought, well, I still need something multicoloured, maybe a square, still linear, to match the lines here. So I played around with a little bit more and I came up with this. I'm quite happy with this. It needs to be placed in the centre, and I think that could be what I'm looking for. Of course all this is getting in the way at the moment. If I can maybe just cover that up, just so you get a better idea of what it will look like so. And I'll make that a little bit bigger now, and I'll show you what that is. Right, so how did I come to this? And that is just 2 pieces of net, very pretty net. You have seen this before, and it has, if you can see that, it has some sequins or little diamantes, shall we say, glued onto the right side. So there is actually a right and a wrong way to this. I tried one. I'm still not sure actually if one is better. See, sometimes I can see things clearer on the screen, more so than having them in front of me on the table. Right. Doesn't make much of a statement, just one piece. I think it needs the 2. Maybe No, too scruffy, too scruffy. That way. Oh yes, I think it needs 2. So that was 2 pieces of lace, not quite square, but square enough. Piece of tartan. Now, this I think works better because it's now making a relationship between the spine and the front. So now it's causing a little bit of composition here. It's connecting them all. And all I've done is back that with interfacing. Pop it on there. Right, so that'll have to be sort of centralized in a minute. And this was, oh, this is something I've had in my workbox for quite a while. I don't know if it was on the edge of another card, or on the edge of a card, or a gift box. I can't really remember. I've just sewn that tiny bow there with a bead and popped a bead there. The beads were already on this. Now that backing is a slow stitched flower. Now I haven't just sat and done that. I did that for one of the pages for this journal. I was playing around and I came up with this, and I won't go into details now because I will be doing this on the camera for one of our pages, so I shall have to replace this one now and make another one for the page. And it's actually back with fabric. That's quite nice fabric too. But anyway, I think this looks very nice on there for the front of the journal. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this in place. Right, so I'm going to pop a couple of pins in there, and then the next piece will be the tartan, beautiful tartan, that way, and that will go there. So I'm going to pop these 2 into position. Take one out there. Right, I need to stop there because I now want to sew this on around there. And after that, this will be placed here and that will be sewn on as well. But if I pin that into position now, it's just going to make it a little bit more awkward to sew this on and the edge here. So I do those first and then work towards this. And I've decided to start with this one first, and I'm going to do that in cross stitch, and I'm going to use 3 strands of embroidery floss, or from the skein, a nice thick long needle. This not too thick, but it needs to be thick enough and fine enough, if that makes sense, just the right thickness to go through these layers now. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to start with cross stitch, and I shall start here. I shall now make this bigger. Now I don't think you're going to need any help with the cross stitch. If you've been following all this time, you're going to know exactly how to do cross stitch. But I will start, I'll make that as big, there we go. So, I'm going to avoid that pin, so I shall start here. So the needle through, I'm starting at the bottom here. Whoops, Daisy. Right, I'm starting at the bottom and across. Oh, take that one. Right, so I'm bringing the thread over this side. Now don't forget, a cross takes the form of a box, so you have to imagine that you're going from side to side and you're forming a box. And so you imagine a box, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. So you're going to take your thread over to this corner like that. Then you're going to drop it down there to the next or the imaginary corner at the bottom, and then you're going to take it over, cross the thread there, hence cross stitch, to the other imaginary corner, and you get a cross stitch. There you go, and that is your cross stitch. You can do them like this, or you can do them in a row. It's entirely up to you. So that is the correct cross stitch. Now don't forget, when we are doing our textile art and not examination work, needlework or anything like that, we do our cross stitches as we like. Because we do this as art, we're working with contrast in size and thickness, because we're about making texture. So that could be my first cross stitch, but my second cross stitch, I might think, I'd like some texture going on here, so I'm going to make this a long one. You could have long legs crossing short legs. You can do your stitches however you wish, and they're not wrong. If they're on your work, if your design, they are not wrong. I've just shown you there how to do them correctly, and this is how to do them imaginatively. So you imagine if you're doing grass, for instance, or flowers. Now you imagine you've just done your 3 cross stitches like that, and then you might decide to do flower heads here in stitches. That's just to give you an idea, for those of you who are new, what you can do. You don't have to stick to the correct way. You're an artist and you're going to do it your way. All you have to do is remember that your brush is a sewing needle and your paint is a thread. Okay, so it's up to you. I'm now, after that mini lecture, I'm now going to carry on, and I'm going to cross stitch all the way around here and possibly around there as well. And if I get carried away, possibly around there. But if I do, the method that I've just shown you for the cross stitch will be exactly the same on all 3 layers. A cross stitch all the way round the edges, around that one, around there, and around there. I did as I said. I've put the three pieces down and cross stitch here. Invariably the cross stitch is turned into herringbone stitch. It's sort of morphed. So there's a mixture in some areas of cross stitch and herringbone. So anyway, I hope you like that. I really do like this. I think it's lovely. I think the biggest challenge now is to actually find a piece of fabric that is long enough to fit the inside. So I think I might have to do as I've done here, maybe seam 2 pieces together with a centre spine. But anyway, we'll see. I'm going to have a look in my stash, and not today. Now it's nearly 8 o'clock Friday night, so I'm going to leave it now until over the weekend, and I'll have another look and see about starting the lining. I'm just going to enlarge it again so you can all admire it. or not, as the case may be. Oh, look at that. Yes, yes. That it's quite a nice feeling, isn't it, when you do something and you're actually pleased with it. I mean, how often do we all do something and just sit and criticise it? But I do like the centre bit. Now I could sit and criticise here. It's not looking straight here from this angle. You know, I could criticise, but I'm not going to. I'm going to accept it as it is and like that. Okay, so I'll get back soon. I've trimmed all the way round the edge, round the 4 edges, made them nice and neat round here. So it's now ready to have the lining cut, and I've cut the lining exactly the same shape, length, size as the cover. Now, it was really difficult finding a piece of fabric to do that all in one, so I've actually had to join this. I did do the seam, the spine, to match the fabric, the tartan fabric, so that was okay. And the two sides here are in a nice pink burgundy-ish, strange colour really. On the screen, I said pink because on the screen it looks pink, but actually in real life it's like a deep burgundy. It's a nice Christmas colour, but I didn't have the length, had the width but not the length, so I've had to join it with some ribbon here, some nice Christmassy silver ribbon, and I don't think it's going to look as if that was a mistake. I think it might actually look as if I intended it to be there. Well, I hope so anyway. So the next thing to do, I'm doing this pillowcase style, this folder. So I need to pin them together, right sides to right side, and I will pin them on 3 sides. So I'm going to pin the long side, the 2 long sides there, one of the short sides there, and I'm going to leave the side which will be the back cover, the short side which will be the edge of the back cover. I'm going to leave that one open. So this is the front cover with the design, so I'm going to pin that along here. Oops, I'll pin that along here, and that is just to hold it firm while I sew it. I do advise you pin this. Normally I say, well, it's up to you, which it is up to you, but because this is such a length and it is quite heavy as well now, I think a few pins here and there will really help to keep it in place. Now I'm going to do the same on the 2 long sides. Just put some pins in, pin it right the way to the end, pins down here, and then I'm going to machine sew around the 2 long. This is so difficult to get it in, sorry, no, I can't make it smaller. So then I'm going to machine sew the 2 fabrics together on the 2 long sides and the short side, the front side, and that will just leave this edge open, and that will be the back, the edge of the back cover will be left open, and that's for obvious reasons, so to get the folder down inside. So I'm going to do that now, and then the exciting thing when we come back after I've done that will be to turn it into the right way and pop the folder in. So that's been done. That only took a couple of seconds. So I've sewn right the way round the edge, 3 edges as I said, and I've left this one open. Now the next thing to do, I've also trimmed some of the sides to take away some bulk. And that's just going to trim, snip in these corners. Now just take it, snip this way. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. And when you're snipping a corner, you're snipping it to take away the bulk, so when you turn it into the right way you get a nice point here and you don't have too much bulk. So don't take it close to the stitching but not close enough to break it. So that's all I've taken off, a little bit like that, and I should do it the other side as well, just a little bit. Oh, these scissors aren't much good. That's it. And then this will be pulled into the right side. Lovely. And now I'm just going to push out the corners with a blunt pencil. When you do this, please don't use anything sharp. I've told a story before about a student who did this with a pair of scissors, and oh, the mess she made. Right, so that's just pushing those out. Now, because this is quite thick, I'm going to need to hook them out from the right side as well. Right, that one looks okay, but this one's a bit stubborn. So with a pin, there you go. So those are the corners out. Lovely. I'm going to flatten it so they're on any rogue pieces. Now the next thing is to get your folder and pop it in inside, and hopefully this will go straight in. Ooh. Oh, after some tugging and pulling and pushing, managed to get the card in. I've now formed it into a folder. The big paper clips here and the clips there are to hold the spine into place to make sure the fabric fits while I oversew. That's back. While I oversew the opening. So if I can get that on the screen, that is the inside. This is the bit that needs to be oversewn. So that is how it's looking. Now I'm going to oversew the opening, the bit where the card went through. I'm now going to oversew it, and all I'm going to do here, and we have done this before, is to turn over the raw edges. I'm going to have to drop this a little bit. Right, so all I'm going to do is turn in the raw edges. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Lovely. Maybe a little bit more smashing. Right. So, as I said, I'll turn in the raw edges here and keep flattening it out to make sure it's taut. Now you might find it easier to pin this as you go. So oversewing just as it sounds. I'm going to oversew one edge to the other to close it up with a very small stitch. And the oversew is just, if you imagine a running stitch on its side, from one side, from one of these, this side to the other side. And that's the first one done. I'm going to do the same with this one, so turn that over. Whoops. I'm going to exactly the same, turn that in to meet that. Stick a few pins in there, all the way down. The ends here, you're just going to push those in. Pin that together. And I'm using a nice fine needle, sharp end to go through the thick fabric. So sharp end. There, you can see that better, and 2 strands of ordinary machine cotton, and I should start at the end, in between the two, lose the knot inside the seam, lose the knot, start with a couple of small stitches here, and try to keep them very small, and you're just going to go from one side to the other with a very small stitch, and you're going to do that all the way to the end. So very small stitch. I mean, on this silver bit, this was the bit I had to add. You can see the thread, but once I get onto the red you won't be able to see it, as long as the stitches are small. But then you might decide anyway to put a trim. Oh, that's a bit knotted there. Let me just straighten that up. Oh, it's the it's the end of the tail of the knot, so I'm just going to stick that inside. Oh goodness, there, that's lovely. So yes, you might decide that you might want to decorate the edge anyway, so don't worry too much about it. Everything can be disguised. There we are, from one side to the other in a little over sewing stitch. Now I'm sure you all know how to do this. So here it is finished. It literally only took a few minutes to over sew along there, and that's done. So I've spent some time looking at the cover, and really, to my mind, there was nothing about it that suggested Christmas and the 12 days of Christmas. So I've played about. I found some fabric I have here, and I bought this fabric. I think it was on eBay, and I bought enough. And I've had this probably about a year now, since last Christmas. And if you can see this, it's one picture to represent one day of the song, the 12 days of Christmas. So I had this stashed away, and I really forgot about it. But anyway, I hooked it out. Now, if you haven't got anything like this, you can always make your own. You can always add pieces of card, or you can add another type of fabric square on top and do some sewing, slow stitching on your squares, or you could leave it like this. But to my mind, mine doesn't look Christmassy. It could be anything really. So I decided that I would cut one out, and I like the 5 gold rings, so I've cut this out and I've backed it. But for another project that I did a long time ago, I had to have curtain rings, which you remember the little brass curtain rings. Well, I wasn't about to spend a lot of money on the brass curtain rings, so somewhere along the line I was able to pick up a bag full of mock pretend wedding rings, and they're meant for a hen night. And it was one of those sort of cheapy high street shops where you could get things like buntings and banners and things like that. Well, I'd managed to pick up a bag of these. Oh gosh, there must be about 100 in there. Oh, hang on a minute, here they are. You see all these? For a hen night, or a wedding, and just you scatter them like the confetti. You just scatter it on the table, or you have a bit of fun, hen night. So I found those as well. So I didn't have to buy any of this, so we don't want to start buying anything. So I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have one day Christmas, because if I had 12 all the way around, then I'm going to lose my lovely patchwork, and I don't want that. So I need to place this. Let me just move that down a little bit. I'm going to place that at an angle here, I think, because I think if I place it there, it's all too, although, as you know, I do like lines, as in pylons. I do like lines, but I'm going to work out of my comfort zone. I'm going to place it at an angle, and I'm going to scatter the rings. Oh, that's not much of a scatter, is it? Because I did think about popping them up there, but no, I'm not doing that. I might start there though and just scatter them so they're falling. And I also have, how many is that? 2, 4, oh look, I've got 6 there. Oops. I also found some wooden numbers. Now I believe I bought these from eBay, because I see eBay as small crafts people probably like a lot of us, who are trying to make a business, build a business up. They're not great big industries. They're just a lot of them are working at the kitchen tables. I know some of them, and they're working hard, especially in these times. So anyway, back to this important stuff. So that is going to go there. Okay, the rings will be scattered, and it is strange working. My gut reaction is to put them in lines like a pylon, like the beautiful Eiffel Tower. There you go, a beautiful line. Oh yeah, and that was lost on me, the lines of this as well. So I will scatter those. Now I'd like to put the numbers on to illustrate the 5 gold rings, and I don't know whether to pop them. Look, they just sit in these, just lovely. So I don't know whether to pop them in there, or does that look too twee? I don't know if that might look a bit too, does that look too twee, do you think? Let me make that a little bit bigger. Push that big thing over. Oh, I don't know. The 4's back to front, isn't it? And the 1's upside down. But perhaps I should scatter those as well. And if they hit the rings, then just leave them there. So I know what I'm doing with the ring and with this. I'm going to over sew them, the rings as well. Just a few stitches, like we would do sequins. A few stitches to hold those in place. This I'll over sew. I think I'll have it in keeping with this, the stitch that started out as cross stitch and sort of morphed into herringbone. And I might scatter them. Oh, anyway, I shall play around, and I'll get back to you as soon as I've done this. It won't take very long to do this. Just over sew the rings. And then just work out what to do with the numbers. I do like the numbers. I think I might actually have them like that, out of order. Okay, I also have 2 little Christmas trees here. Once again, I bought these from a crafts person on eBay. I bought these mid-year because I knew that I was going to do this project way back in the height of lockdown. It would have been maybe February time. Oh yeah, I think. Now that suggests Christmas, doesn't it? Without over egging the pudding, so to speak. That does now suggest Christmas. I just I hadn't placed the trees before, but yes, I think that I like that very nicely. So I will crack on with that, and I'll get back to you as soon as I've done that. And here it is finished. I'm not going to do anything else to it now. It's done. It didn't take very long at all. It took, I won't guess, but less than an hour. I did as I said. I've secured this down here. I put the 5 rings there, all with a couple of stitches either side. I've also attached the numbers here, tumbling numbers I'm calling those, also with a couple of stitches either side. I added some trees over here. I've made a little woodland scene here with the trees and a few rough cross stitches here, couple of cross stitches and herringbone. For me, one always runs into the other, so that's a nice little scene there. And what else? And I brought up one of these trees here as well. Put the trees there. The trees are beaded, a few beads, long beads and short beads. What else? And I think that is it. I'm not going to touch it at all now. The little bit here, the patch there, has been secured with herringbone stitch. I shall make it just a bit bigger. Just going to zoom in with some of the details so you can see it. Now I will have to move the folder around. It's quite heavy at the moment because I've actually got books here keeping it open so that you can see it flat, otherwise it would be difficult to see. But I'll move it around. Oh, it is heavy as well. Right, so there we go. There's the patch here and the little tree. You can see the start of the rings here and the start of the number there, 3 and 4. Just going to slide it up slowly, and there we go. You can see the rest of the rings now and some more numbers. And oh, this is quite awkward. And the trees and the rough stitch in there. So there we go. You can see me trying to put it down here, keeping it straight as we go. So that is the cover, and you've seen the back, so you know what the back's like. The back, there's been no changes at all with the back, so I won't take the books out to show you the back, because you know what that's like. So that is part 1 finished. I hope you enjoyed that, and I really hope you like this effect. I feel that it's a bit different. It's a different style for me because there isn't any net and there's not lots of stitching going on, but horses for courses, and I think this just does nicely. Okay, so I'll see you in part 2.